Wienke Giezeman, welcome to the TechBurst Talks podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And I think I got that wrong. It should be Giezeman if I want to do the proper Dutch.
Definitely, you're really close. This is
I got to
well.
keep working. My Dutch has not improved, although I've been here almost a year. So Wienke, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organizations? There's many of them, right? There's not just one.
I'm Wienke Giezeman, CEO of the Things Industries. I founded the company together with Johan, a business partner and CTO. And what we do is we help companies around the world build LoRaWAN solution, offering a cloud service that allows them to add IoT gateways and low power sensors to build sensor solutions. So we've now got around 3 million connected devices on our software around the world. We're doing around 4 million yearly subscription revenue, and we're helping thousands of customers building all kinds of different solutions, from temperature sensing to cattle tracking, things in retail.
It's been a long journey because I think we met almost a decade ago now in Singapore at an IoT event, and you guys were just kicking off back then, and so was IoT. So what inspired you to get involved with this in the early days?
Yeah, that was really cool. I really remember very vividly, like we had this event in Singapore where we first met, and then IoT was at the peak of the hype. It's almost where AI is right now, right? It's like so many kind of like ideas and opportunism. But we started like a few months earlier where this new technology came out, technology called LoRaWAN. And it's a technology that allows to send small pieces of data over the air, over open spectrum. So no need to get any cellular subscription, and get small pieces of data from A to B. And in 2015, you and I came up with the idea that if we can do that, and the range of that is around a kilometer, you can build shared infrastructure, because if everybody sets up such a gateway and all these enterprises share the infrastructure, then you can build a massive global network. Operators were also doing that at the time. And over the last 10 years, basically the value proposition of that technology converged towards private networks. And this is where, we're excelling now and are a market leader globally.
And you've done a good job with it, that's for sure.
Thanks.
But you also created a community around this. And this is what I've always been fascinated by. Like, anybody who's in this space knows you, knows your company, and probably works with you.
Yeah, so that's very kind to say, by the way. We started our company with this collaborative idea, and the mantra was actually, let's build this thing together. And I think we've operated along that mantra, saying building these IoT solutions is so incredibly hard. There are so many very different puzzle pieces to our IoT solutions. There's hardware, firmware, network, cloud services, data analytics. So you have to be a Lego brick. And maybe that's not always what you want to be, but if we want to make this market together, we have to make it together. And I think we've consistently followed that. There's quite some consequences to following such a strong vision. It's hard to raise VC money, because you're not saying that you're going to win the entire market. We're going to be the ones that are going to eat the entire pie. That's a different mantra. That's perfectly fine, but it's not what we were doing. And around that means that you need a lot of companies, enough people. And then if you just be consistent in your actions and you share a lot of information, share a lot of IP, share a lot of standards, then people will follow at some point. And that's really where the Things Network is, like a developer ecosystem of device makers, partners, solution makers, and that basically all see us as a trusted place and platform to build our solution.
I think that's why we got along initially, because back then, I remember I was doing a keynote at the IoT Asia event, and I was trying to get people to understand the complexity of IoT, because any IoT solution is multiple products from multiple vendors. Yeah. You're going to have a thing that connects over a network, it's going to go through multiple different platforms. You got to secure it, the systems integration. So it's complex. And I just found like everyone's saying, I've got an IoT solution. Like, no, you have a component. So I like the idea that you've always been able to aggregate this. But now you've moved on. So you started out with the Things Network. You also have the Things Industry. So how is this different?
Yeah, so basically we started off building these LoRaWAN services, building software and services to make it easier to build a solution. We moved that into a SaaS offering where basically can run our SaaS servers by some standardized gateways and standardized devices, of which many of them we certified for a platform. And then you can start building your own solution. And this is what we offer at the Things Industries, where you pay a subscription fee and then you get an SLA. And we have global services on every continent. We have servers running, and you don't have to worry about that. You have to only worry about making sure that you install the hardware, making sure you build the business case around it, and let us just do the cloud work.
But like over this past decade, you've probably looked at more solutions than anybody, because you've got all the different partners. You've got your wall of fame at the events. What's the coolest type solution that you've actually seen?
You have cool solutions and scalable solutions. So a lot of cool solutions are, I think, with nature preservation, following rhinos or detecting forest fires with sensors and these kind of things. Scalable solutions are more in smart metering, so water metering. They don't have active electricity, but also interesting what kind of data they do. All the use cases around schools for kids' safety, but also, for instance, vape detections. And like we have partners that have sensors that have literally vape detectors in washrooms, but also a rodent control, detecting when rodent traps gone off. I see a lot in retail from counting people from kind of commercial data, which is very interesting because, yeah, that commercial data can, for instance, for a leasing company, result in higher lease or there's kind of some opportunity there, but also in buildings, the facility management. So just keeping track of toilet dispensers, like you can name it. And the funny thing about this fragmented market is that I get to be amazed every day. We have now around 3 million devices connected to the platform, and that's growing. Device growth around 50% year on year. Revenue is around 30% year on year. So it keeps coming and the volume keeps coming.
Well, that's good because now it's not a buzzword anymore. It's sort of gone into business as
Yeah.
usual. And what I like is you're seeing a lot of people do these scalable type projects.
Yeah.
They've had chances to go out there and see what works. And now that they've proved that it can actually work, they're starting to scale. And I think you're seeing a lot in like utilities doing things, but I think there's still a lot of room for growth. So you're positioned well.
Yeah.
Now, next thing is you've had this ecosystem, and what you've done every year for I think the past 8 years
Yes.
is you've had the Things Conference. So you really like this structure, the Things, everything. So you had the Things Conference. You have another one coming up in September. So can you tell us a little bit about the Things Conference?
Yeah, sure. The first edition was in 2018. And before that, we actually were sitting together with the team. We said, why don't we create an IoT conference that we ourselves want to go to, that are not kind of filled with marketing stories that are about technology, about what's real, but also where people share things that didn't work. And maybe not on stage, but at least like have a developer to developer kind of conversation. And so we said, oh, why don't we just do it ourselves? So we sent out an email to this large ecosystem that we have. It's like, we're going to do an event. Are you going to drop by? And then we had 700 people in the first edition without ever doing a conference. And we scrambled it together. We made sure it was, of course, just of quality, but yeah, we managed to do that. And since then, we have this every year. And what we've always done is we've focused on the LoRaWAN part of it. And this year, also following that, let's make this thing together a mantra, saying, no, let's invite more people to this ecosystem. And now we have around 150 partners. Yeah, big ones. Semtech, Qualcomm, NXP, Infineon, AWS. Yeah, so, and we have around 2,000 people there. And it's going to be a big party. I'm very much looking forward to it.
What I think is interesting is it started out as a pure, almost like a LoRa developer conference.
Yeah.
But now it's going in and looking at supply and demand and all different components within the ecosystem. And it's not just LoRa anymore because you've got other people. I mean, other guys who are doing Wi-Fi Halo out of Australia are coming up. So you're getting a bunch of different things. It's more of almost like an IoT type event.
It is. Going back to the Lego brick and embracing that you're a Lego brick actually is only 5%. And the rest is they have to have a gateway, which has a cellular backhaul, which has different firmware, which is also connected to another management cloud. Right? The companies and all our customers in the IoT industry, they have this really large set of vendors. Right? So, yeah, so we thought, okay, if we're bringing 2,000 people every year to Amsterdam to talk about LoRaWAN, it just doesn't make sense to just keep this all for ourselves. Let's just share and make the market bigger.
And that's good as well because it'll help attract a different audience because people, if they're looking at LoRa, would go. But now if it's much wider, I'm guessing you're going to have a more diverse audience coming there just to check it out.
It's amazing. So we have the Bluetooth SIG, that's just the organization behind the Bluetooth standard, the Z-Wave Alliance, a lot of cellular players like Nordic, Sequence, Kaijin, Soracom. And so yeah, we have all these different kind of flavors. And yeah, it's going to be a candy store. And if you're into this market, 2 days and you're up to speed.
Well, now we're going to switch a little bit. We're going to start talking about some trends and we're going to see what's going on with IoT and LoRa. But first of all, we've both been around IoT since it was completely overhyped. And that's when everybody had those ridiculous forecasts about how huge the number of connections and market size is going to be. And then it's all come back down to reality. Yeah. So what do you think were the complexities? Like, why didn't we reach those lofty aspirations, or why is it going to take us longer to reach them?
Yeah, so why it's taking longer, I think at the core is what IoT does. It interfaces with physical things. And we applied scaling patterns from a cloud and even like a consumer a software or platform world. So if I build a Facebook, I create an app that changes your behavior and basically can control your thumb. So you have one thing that's uber standardized. There's a black screen, like a small black screen in your hand with your phone. The other one is they took control over your thumb. So basically, that's extremely scary, right? That level of control over things is really hard. And this leads to this insane fragmentation. And that's why it's hard. The interesting thing, I think, with all these expectations is that I don't think the perception of the opportunity is wrong, but getting to the opportunity, exactly what we're saying, is taking longer. But what I now gradually more and more see is that really the high grossing IoT business cases, I believe that actually exceeding expectations in their niches. Our joint friend Gerard from Caliper, he's building very high value and how high value driving devices. And that also requires a significant investment, but the business case is even stronger, right? We might, as a technology industry, be a bit disappointed and we had higher expectations. Maybe we were expecting to get a bit bigger slice of that pie, but our customers, they're seeing the benefits. And there's no doubt to that because we have 3 million devices. And I always say to the team, 3 million devices on the platform, but our customers invested $300 per device in total cost of ownership, right? So we're talking about a very large sum of money that our customers invested. They didn't all give it to us. They only give a small portion to us. I think our perspective on these expectations and how we looked at them, yeah, they were definitely right.
I'm very bullish on where it's headed because I think initially what happened, we focused way too much on the technology. Like especially when low power WAN first came out. Remember on LinkedIn, there was the LP WAN wars. It was the NB-IoTs guys slamming Sigfox and slamming LoRa. And I'm like, you idiots, quit talking about this. It doesn't matter. You do what's right. Because there's different use cases for each one. So quit infighting amongst yourselves and start delivering value. No one talked about value. Everyone talked about the tech for so long. And you mentioned what he's doing with Caliper. I love it because he has probably the top spec housing unit that you can get. He doesn't even talk about the technology. He goes straight for the business case and knows the levers to press, saying, I can save you X number of dollars by doing this. And then by the time you show them that, they see the cost. They're ready to move forward. So I think that's great because people are understanding it's not a tech game. It's a value. Show me how it delivers value, and then we'll go ahead and deliver it. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these utilities and cities, doing more energy infrastructure type projects because the savings is there and cities don't have a lot of money right now. And the pandemic wiped them out. So it's like, it gives them a chance to start doing something that delivers value and saves them money at the same time.
No, definitely. And what you're saying is like this IoT technology evangelism. Then at some time, and 5 years ago, that turned into IoT crusades. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I never understood that. And we've been always passionate about the technology that we create, but we never went on a crusade. We never tried to pull anybody down. And in the end, exactly what you're saying is the one that wins is the end customer. They take the biggest risk and they get the biggest piece of the pie. Yeah.
In this field, I've been called an evangelist so many times and I hate it. I'm like, I'm not an evangelist. I'm a pragmatist because I'm looking at this and I can see how we're going to screw it up. And I'm trying to let you know, this is what we need to do to get it right. And unfortunately, it just takes a lot longer than we had hoped for. So the market is picking up. It's looking pretty positive, I would say. What do you think the top trends that you're seeing right now in IoT?
In the technology space, the main trend is that it's cooling down. So there's not another IoT technology, another IoT platform every month. There's more of a consolidation or a pullback almost. So I think that will create some natural rationalization. So I think that's really good from a kind of end user and systems integrator perspective. What we see is that systems integrators and product makers, of course, they always look at IoT. And that means if you have done that over the last 10 years, you have been disappointed, let's say, every 2 years. Because then you're disappointed, you don't do it 1 year, and then you get excited. And what I think is that in IoT, the building blocks are getting so interoperable and solid that getting disappointed in IoT because of the technology is less likely. And I think that's a really clear trend. I think what we see more is, let's say 10 years ago or 5 years ago, you would have somebody from an innovation or product team and they did these very big ideas and that they were not really connected to reality with regards to the pragmatism. And I think now more and more we see we figured this ABC out, this is the architecture, we need this from you guys. We've tested out. We have an open source version for that reason, because people want to figure out this product out themselves first. I think that one of the trends is that we have some pragmatism.
Well, that's good. It was much needed. It just took us a little bit longer than it should have to get here. But now, what about specific sectors or regions or countries? I know we've talked a lot. We've mentioned utilities quite a bit. But what are your other prospects? Like, what do you think are the areas that are the most interesting right now?
Yeah, so I get this question at least once a week. And from what we see is it's extremely fragmented. And it's really hard for me actually to look at and to pinpoint one example. So if you look at scale and where there's a lot of devices sold, definitely in metering, but also that's where the margins, right? So yeah, it's a big opportunity, yes or no? And on the other side, there's a lot of these small operational niche problems out there. Facility management, building management. I don't have a satisfying answer. Like, look at that industry, go chase these problems. Maybe the answer's out there. I don't have it, but what I see across the board, our customers are successful if they really know the business domain problems of their sector. They know the trade secrets, they know all the ins and outs, and then IoT is just a tool to enable. But unfortunately, I don't have any data, or actually, because it's so fragmented.
And the data is kind of pointless anyway. I've done enough research, and I used to work for a research firm. I don't trust any of the numbers when it comes to IoT because basically there's so many numbers out there. Figure out how big you want it to be. You can go find someone to justify your assumption. But anyway, so we now need to move on a little bit about AI, because I think this is important, because what you were talking about there is that they had the solutions, but they're understanding how to deliver the business value. And this is the idea about taking data, so capturing the data, turning it into insights, and then into knowledge, and then to wisdom. And that's what allows these people to get this benefit out of it. So this is why we need AI and IoT, right? How is it impacting what you see with your clients and with the people in your ecosystem?
So what's really good about IoT data, also about the IoT data that's constrained devices, already a lot of thought have been through in how to structure and how to send and how to model the data. Because actually the connectivity comes at a cost. So you're optimizing. That means that IoT data delivers quite clean data for AI to process. So that's a bit of a contextual thing. Then if you look at the architecture, there's Edge AI. So Edge AI can be in a sensor where it can already analyze some data and determine if that is actually relevant data for businesses' decisions. So what you do see there is all kinds of AI in sensors. So smarter sensors that either bring better results or have really good filtering on your business requirements. And then you have the AI in the cloud. I think the biggest bet would be on kind of like the telemetry data and analyzing that. My hypothesis is that with a generative AI, that you can create applications to more easily make the object talk one that is in charge of operations, and that's in the field. So think about like the objects in a building talking with a facility manager just through the WhatsApp, just through his mobile, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity, because I always think that if IoT data ends up in a graph, a dashboard, you failed, because you kept it within the IT department, because then we can build graphs in the IT departments, but then nobody in the business wanted anything. But if you can make it conversational, there's a much higher likely adoptions.
With AI, the fact that we're leveraging so much, there's so many cool things you can do if you're in an industrial plant or in manufacturing, where generative AI allows you to talk to the equipment. That means suddenly having more data is very important. So it's actually going to generate demand. So AI is going to start generating a lot of demand for these types of solutions.
But the ball has to start rolling, right? Yes. You have to be with something small. Is machine A in hall C running, right?
You know, it's funny. I think just before the pandemic, I was at Bosch Connected World. I think it was must have been early 2020. Like literally, we were deciding whether they're going to have the event or not. And they were talking about AI IoT back then. And they were the first one. I remember having a few meetings with Dirk Slama and Thomas Jakob, who used to run Asia Pacific for them. They were talking about this stuff back then, but then we had this pandemic and everything went quiet for a while. And now I'm glad to see this finally coming along, and people are figuring out that it's not that, oh, we just do AI and we just do IoT. It's like these things can leverage each other, and you get more value out of leveraging IoT when you use AI. And, you know, for AI, you need data. And like you said, you get pretty clean data coming in a lot of these solutions. So makes it easier. Okay. Any other trends you think coming up?
So if I look at our conference, AI Foundation is joining. So that's good. The other one is CRA. This is a trend. It's just regulation, Cyber Resilience Act.
I thought you were talking about me.
You're going to get a lot of hits to Google that. So the Cyber Resilience Act is basically new European regulation that is extending on the RED, and it's part of this standard CE certification. And basically, it requires people that sell IoT solutions to follow additional rules. And from our perspective, these are really basic rules, but that there's a good segment of the market that needs to step up. So we have a really concise track on our event about the cyber resilience, but also about Edge AI. Satellite IoT is a long-lasting promise. I'm just so eager to see that work. I love all our partners that use LoRa technology to communicate through LoRa, through a satellite with the cloud. The product market fit has to be found yet there, but that just takes time. I don't want to say there's a trend, but I think there's still something exciting. There's still a dream.
Funny, just a couple of weeks ago, I did a podcast on space compute.
Yeah.
So guys that are sticking servers up in space, which is brilliant. Like, I didn't know anything about this, but I know the guy and I wanted to see what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he educated me, and it's fascinating when you talk about this is proper edge processing because you're in low Earth orbit. So what about for LoRaWAN and for IoT? What's next for this? What is it going to take to get us to that next level? Is there certain things you think structurally, or does something need to happen for the ecosystem to work better or for ease of deployment?
Yeah, so I think the rationalization, if you now look at the candy store of IoT technologies, would come from everybody trying to offer everything. And I think it will help the market if there's some consensus around winners and losers. I think LoRaWAN clearly proved its niche in private networks. It had a promise of doing wide area networks. We didn't see a lot of growth there. We see more growth in what we call LPLAN, low power local area networks. And we also created some vertically integrated products. We have a managed gateway, which we ship to you. And this is literally plug and play. You plug it in a power, it has a cellular backhaul, and it boots up. And if I plug it in here, within 20 seconds, we'll have a LoRaWAN network in this entire network. I think you will see more of these vertically integrated components because they are so common to be used in solutions. And then I think with cellular, I think you'll see more and more embracement of the Cat1 bis.
What about for your company, your companies, I should say? What do you think's next for you in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so the core is the things, industries, the things network is the open source community around it. We're now growing around in a device count 50% year on year and in our revenue around 30% year on year. And we're a profitable company. And that means that we can invest in our product leadership strategy, make sure that we have the best product for our market. So I expect that to grow quite linearly over the next 5 years. And we just make sure that we keep our customers happy and that goes on. What is really clear, and also what we're saying here at our conference, is there are a lot of other technologies that can, at scale, can have a lower TCO if there's a really proper cloud management platform. And so this is already what we did with cellular, with our own gateway. So yeah, you can imagine is what we do, and we do successfully to take away the headache and the TCO for managing these networks and these solutions. Then we can do that for many other technologies as well.
Okay. Now I want to ask you for some of your reflections, because you've had one hell of a journey. You've ridden the wave where IoT was the greatest new thing, and then it went really quiet, that you had the pandemic in the middle of it, but you've been able to get through all of that relatively successfully, I would say. So looking back, what do you understand about this industry today that you wish you knew when you started out?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So there's a lot of stuff that I think we wish we knew earlier, how incredibly hard hardware is. And this is something we learned very early on, luckily, because we did a Kickstarter. This gave us a lot of empathy for our hardware partners, which helped us. We stopped doing hardware ourselves. So I think that's one. I think one other is that in our market, early on realizing that it's really only the solution that drives the entire business model, and the hypothesis of building wide area networks, which was one of our early hypotheses, that what I said, we're going to build shared infrastructure. And that's still to an extent something we do, but it's just a feature. So the one part of LP1 for me is just a feature, and the data transport is the value proposition. There are a lot of micro things, also being an entrepreneur and doing that. But I think one of the things that the reason why we're here is because we're very open, always open to talk, to collaborate, even if that would enable a competitor. And this is what we do with our conference right now. We're promoting competing technologies. And that's because we very much believe in our own strength, in our own domain, in our own niche.
I'll be honest, I think it's the smartest thing you could do. I went to your event last year, and the one thing that was still LoRa developers more. So when you started bringing in all the rest of the ecosystem, I was very pleased. I think that's what we need to see. We need to get this whole community going together to learn from each other, but also because there's so many components that come together, there's more partnerships these companies need to have for all of them to be successful. The more successful companies in that ecosystem, the better it is for everybody. So I think this is a step in the right direction. So,
Thanks.
and now there's a lot of new companies coming out. So let's say that I'm a startup right now and I'm thinking about going into IoT solutions. You've been around for a long time. You've seen more IoT startups than probably anybody. What advice would you give to them?
Own the domain problem on the business side. I was talking with one startup. What they did is they had a sensor you can put on a large building, with a lot of glass. And then you put it on the inside of the glass and it would detect when it was required to clean the outside of the building and optimizing that. And I thought it was just amazing examples. Understand that problem, that market, the trade secrets, the politics, what are people saying, but more important, what are they doing? Or where are they putting their money in? Who's paying who? Like just know it all and then look at the IT solution. Focus really much on your business domain.
I agree with you completely on that. I always say, like, if you want to sell technology, you better be able to handle a 15 or 20-minute business discussion first, and then come back and say, I understand your business. I understand your problems. By the way, this solution that I have can help do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to deliver your value here and here and save you money, drive efficiency or whatever. So the tech's important, but if you come in there and just sell them tech, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get very far. You go in there and solve a problem for them and show them you understand their business and how it works. That's where you gain traction in a lot of these customers.
If you do that, then that's the way you know how to build a better product.
And the final question. So let's go back 10 years. So just before you and Johan decided to start the Things Networks, let's say that IoT never happened. What would you be doing now instead? If there was no IoT, there was no Things Network Industries Conference, what would you be doing in your career or in your life?
I do think there's a lot of other businesses where more openness and more collaboration could expand the market and create opportunity for you. And I think it would have always been somewhere in the open source, open networks, and net neutrality kind of spaces where you can motivate people just to open up a bit, share a bit, let them know, yeah, like this is how the internet was created. We all opened up and we all eat the cake that we make together. So yeah, probably something in the same direction.
Well, those are wise words to finish on, because I think it's not just a few industries could benefit from this. Pretty much everybody could. Everywhere you go, you run into siloed organizations, closed think, and people don't want to collaborate. They think that if you share, you're giving up power. And it's like, no, you share, you work together, you can actually deliver more. So anyway, Wienke, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. A nice sunny day in Amsterdam is brilliant. So I wish you all the best for the event coming up this September. And I will leave all of the information about the events and the Things Network in the show notes.
Thank you very much.